And we did a live broadcast from Wimbledon recently, which is where I met the lady sitting opposite me now. And I thought she had a very interesting tale to tell. So we've invited her in. She's artist and designer and also EVS operator, and we'll explain what that means. And she's Gayle Hall. Gayle, welcome to the show.
Hello, Robert. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, well, thanks for coming up and introducing yourself the other day, because I thought it was a fascinating story. So let's start with the EVS operator bit, because I didn't know what that was, but I think lots of people will know what you do, if you get what I mean.
They will, because it's a very important part in TV, and as everybody's watching the Olympics right now...
Yeah, I'm watching it in the corner.
Of course, they know. So EVS will, especially for sport, will do the replays.
Right.
And edit small packages together for analysis in between sections.
So are you doing this in real time?
In real time. So as you see it, we edit it or we replay it. I know one of your favourite sport is football.
Yeah.
So whenever you see the goal and you see lots of different angles.
Yeah, that's you.
That's me. Or people like me for sure. But
how did you get into doing that?
I started off doing electronics at college,
right.
And then I went into TV and progressed sort of onto it, into EVS. Did videotape, then did EVS.
And do people specialise? Do some people specialise in sport or maybe something?
They do. There are a lot of people who just do sport. I mean,
yeah.
I do a lot of light entertainment. And one of the shows that I did was a programme called Third Day with Jude Law.
Right.
And it was the first time ever that a show had been shot for 12 hours on a single camera. So my job was to, every 20 minutes or 40 minutes, the battery dies. So you have to change over. So my job was to do an edit that was seamless. So it made it look that it just went on and on and on. And then there was one section where Jude Law was about to dive into the water and a plastic bag flew over the camera for the entire 20 minutes.
No.
So at the beginning of the show, we have an hour's buffer. And I had to edit that piece completely out. So my buffer went from 1 hour to 10 minutes. And we still had 6 hours of the show left. So by the time the end of the show, it was like I was editing every sort of couple of minutes.
You spent a lot of time looking at Jude Law then.
A lot of time looking at Jude Law.
I mean, there's worse things to do, I guess.
It's not bad. And so, I love television because that's such a big adrenaline rush. It's like, wow.
So that's one aspect of what you do.
Yeah.
But you also you make your own designs and your own art.
I do.
Is that something you'd always done?
Yes and no. I think I used to do it sort of way back in school and I used to really like it. But, your career takes over.
Yeah.
And, your parents sort of might say to you, you're really going to art school? So I got into TV, which is very creative. So I think that helped. But I started it, and it sort of has two steps of the story in the sense that my mother passed in 2017.
I'm sorry.
And the sad thing about that is I think it's an interesting thing about grief is that you have to carry on. You have to keep working and you do all that. But it took me about a year to realise I was quite depressed about the whole thing and really missing her. And then I sort of realised, I decided that I had to do something to get out of that depression. So I wanted to do something that would be a tribute to her. And so my very first piece is all about my mum. And what I took was a phrase that she would always say to me when we were talking. Because I'd go to her with some crazy ideas. And
I can't imagine that.
I know, just really mad ideas. And she'd go, oh, gosh, Gayle. And sometimes, she'd say that was not a great idea or sometimes, but she'd always end it by saying, you go, girl, you go. And that's why I call my company You Go Productions as opposed to Gayle Hall. And
you there's a beautiful portrait of your mum here that you did. What's that on?
It's on metal.
Right.
So it has quite a nice effect. I like the effect that it has. And it makes the images really pop. You can make them really pop.
So how have you done that? Have you drawn that?
You draw it. I do sort of on the computer digitally. Most of all my work is digitally produced, and then I work out how to get it onto a surface. Hence the reason I'm called an artist and a surface designer.
Right.
So I would do that. Yeah.
Because that's a very beautiful figurative portrait of your mum, but a lot of your work is much more. I guess I don't know what it's not abstract, but it's so figurative, is it? It's shapes.
No, I do sort of three. There's sort of three sides to me. Like I do the portraits, and then what happened is I had my first solo exhibition in November 2021,
right?
And lots of people I asked people what they liked of my stuff, and on the portraits, I used to create a border that was associated with the person that I was doing the portrait of. And in the case of my mother, she really liked flowers. So I created a border full of flowers, and lots of people said they really liked that.
There's a lot of floral motifs in your work, isn't there?
Yeah, and so then I started and they all said, they'd like cushions and so on. So I spent a year and a half creating a kind of interiors range that with designs that can be put onto any surface.
And where can people access these? Where can they see them? Or
they can see them on my website, which is www.ugoproductions.co.uk,
right.
And also Instagram, which is called Mina, which is after my mum.
And do you have any more exhibitions coming up?
Not immediately, but I have a few more outlets going out. I will actually be at the American Embassy.
Really?
Yeah, they've asked me. This is the second time. I was there just a few months ago.
Yeah.
I was there a few months ago, and they really liked my work, so they've asked me to come back and do an exhibit there in October during Black History Month.
So is this taking over from the EVS, would you say?
I love television. It's a great, it's a great high. Yeah.
We prefer radio.
Okay. but so, it's kind of job that you can balance it and do both. And then, if I get a commission, which, I've had a few, you can spend a little time on that and also then go back. Like Wimbledon, it's great fun doing Wimbledon and seeing everybody.
What were you doing at Wimbledon?
I was EVS on Court 2.
Were you?
Yeah. So I was doing the replays for that. And Court 2 is quite a busy court because it's the biggest show court that doesn't have a ceiling. So it gets all the big names that aren't quite, dare I say it, big enough to be on Court 1 or Centre Court. So they come on Court 2. So, yeah, we're very busy on that court.
Do you have to know about a sport, for example? So if you were doing the Olympics and something came up, I don't know, hockey or some sport that you don't know anything about, would it make any difference?
I think it definitely helps. I mean, when I do for the Olympics, I did gymnastics,
right? And
for the summer games, and for the winter, I did figure skating. And you learn, and when you learn, you can understand better what the director and producers are looking for. And can you almost
anticipate a bit more? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it is good to know a sport and understand a sport. And I mean, I was quite lucky because I worked for NBC, the American networks, and that's where I won my Emmys for.
Wow!
And it was all to do with the continuity and anticipating what the producers and directors would want.
Well, that's fascinating, and so is the artwork. Tell people again where they can take a look at some of this.
You can you can follow me on Instagram, which is Mina.
And that's Yougo
Mina. Mina, and the website is www.ugoproductions.co.uk.
And that's the work of Gayle Hall. See, I told you she was interesting.